he
All right.
is. Wait. All
Jeez.
right, Mary, see if you can highlight both of them. Thank you guys for coming. So Bill, while we so Bill has been hey George, how are you, buddy? I'm Jordy. Thank you for coming on. Bill
Absolutely.
has been a great friend to ours. He's a Marine, top MMA fighter. I was reading about your background. It's pretty cool, man. Don't mess with Bill. Skilled
That's
in a
right.
lot of different things. I don't know how many, but it was in the list kept going. So that's awesome. He's and Bill's an avionics tech, drone pilot, and he now trains vets on how to fly drones, and he's helping us place some of you guys who want to work in the drone industry, which, as you know, is just I think one of the top places to be. So thank you. And Bill invited George for us to come today. So I appreciate that, Bill. And then George Femmer is the CEO of the Drone Institute. He's been doing that for 3 years. So this is a world-class training institute, helping, we were talking a little bit about this earlier, helping drone pilots today and careers in inspections and roofing and property damage and doing oil and gas work and farming and all across the board. And George has a background as a videographer and just really cool experiences. So thank you guys, both of you guys, for coming on today, man. We appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you. The pleasure's all ours. Thank you. Much
You
appreciated.
got it. You got it. Bill, tell everyone just a little bit quickly about you, and then we'll go to George, and then we can chat more.
Hey guys, yeah, I was on I guess about a couple weeks ago talking to everybody. Always love coming on here. So yeah, I'm a US Marine. I'm actually still in the reserves right now, so I'm in the avionics piece up here in New Jersey. I'm a black belt Marine, entrepreneur. I have some real estate that I'm involved with, and then I'm also a drone pilot. I have a drone business up here in South Jersey. So I actually help run a nonprofit called Right to Heal as well. So we also help with veterans in terms of getting them drone training and getting them trained up. I went through diverse veterans drone training program last year. We had a $150,000 grant. We got about 12 veterans through the drone training program. We made them pilots, got them into different businesses, and then I ended up starting my business. So always trying to expand on the helping veterans and helping them be entrepreneurs or helping them get into different job fields, certainly transitioning, because we all know that transitioning in life is tough, right? Adapting and overcoming is essential if you want to be successful. So I connected with George. Hold on one second, my phone is going off. I connected with George, and George runs the Drone Institute. He's down in Louisiana, and I really liked his background. I really liked what his company does because not only do they train drone pilots, but they help them get into industries. They help them work under their pilot network, and they seem very innovative in terms of what they're doing. So, I am just trying to help out veterans, piece things together, and looking to see what happens. So definitely, George, I know George has some great stuff to say. So tell us about yourself, George.
Yeah, absolutely. Much appreciated, Bill. I really do appreciate it. So my name's George Femmer, CEO of Drone Institute. I've been a drone pilot for a little over 7 years. And if you're cool with the Bill, I got a couple slides that I prepped just to kind of
Yeah,
quick.
fire away. Go ahead. Let's see
Yeah,
them. You could hit share and show everyone. Video, audio is always good.
there we go. So succeeding in the modern drone industry. So who is Drone Institute? We're a company that I would say is built on three pillars, primarily, just like you touched on, Bill. Training, actual industries and services, products. We've created proprietary products that didn't exist. We have provisional and non-provisional applications that are out there and filed for this tech that we've created. We have an innovation arm that continues to build new products and new services. So the long story short, we've trained a lot of enterprise drone groups. So like oil and gas facilities, engineering teams, departments of transportation. We had trained the group over at NAVFAC, a bunch of different groups that were looking to integrate drone technology into the current traditional practices. We were able to train enough people in similar fields, and they had similar problems, like bold, ambitious people who wanted to solve problems, and they're new into the drone space, just built a drone team, so they wanted to solve those problems. They asked the people who trained them, who was us, how can you help us solve those problems? So if you hear that enough in the oil and gas space, you hear that enough in roofing, you hear that enough in law enforcement, you decide there's a common need, there's a product here. So that's essentially what we've done. We train groups, we find problems, we solve those, and we continue to innovate and iterate to create new solutions. That's what a lot of our industry technology is actually built around. Like on the roofing side, we've created proprietary technology for the residential and commercial infrastructure inspections, all done at scale. So most drones are just accustomed to, like we're accustomed to, drones are just one asset, one inspection, one unit, one focus at a time. The data processing that we do is heavily GIS involved. We do not just look at one image. We use composite imagery products pretty heavily. So what does that mean? We have technology that allows us to find problems at scale. Everything is spatially accurate, so we can generate measurements to support the bids that remedy those problems. So essentially, find and fix all the problems that are out there. That is the core of what we do. I have a couple of recommendations as we kind of jump into this today and just some general information about the drone market. But I wanted you guys to know there's a lot of pilots that are out there. There are a lot of drones that are registered. So where are they focused? How can you stand out? This is stuff that we really want you guys to be in tune with, aware of. A lot of these guys are focused across multiple different industries. So how do you stand out? Our recommendation is to focus on the one thing that you guys know the most or know the best. You have some relevant background, you have an education, you had specific training, and it's our belief that by focusing on one thing, you can come to know 10,000 things, and no one can serve two masters. It's often whenever we get distracted chasing multiple things that we never end up attaining the one thing that we wanted to go and achieve. So it's our recommendation that you dive in where you already have experience, and that will allow you to branch out further. So go deep before you go wide is the personal recommendation. Drones, they're gaining swift adoption in our purview in industries that are currently reliant on expensive manual methods of capture with inherent and imminent danger. Prepared a short list. There are a ton of different industries out there. There are a ton of different manual capture methods. I highlighted just a couple funny ones on the side right here, but these are true things that people are being put into the field to do right now. But drone technology does exist, is capable. There are payloads and acquisition methods that allow us to acquire this data without putting a human in harm's way. So there are a lot of other fields that aren't just imminent danger, but they're large markets that drones are a lot more efficient, more effective than the manual methods of capture that are currently being utilized. So there's an adoption that's swiftly taking place that we're seeing in construction, in roofing, in agriculture, in oil and gas, first responders, land survey, just to name a few. And I'm happy to dive into any one that you guys do have questions about. The personal recommendation is, again, begin exactly where you are, know what skills you possess, what interests that you guys have, and know that you don't need the fanciest equipment to begin. You just need commitment and a firm decision, purpose of amendment. So we started actually on this roofing product with a $700 drone. If you guys are familiar with DJI consumer grade drones, the Air 2S is a consumer grade system. It's only $700. It's cheap. We actually rigged it using third-party software to be capable of mapping and photogrammetric missions. So we did the first proof of concept with this system. We found that there was actually an interest. It did solve a unique problem in the residential roofing landscape. And just to give you the context there, we fly over neighborhoods in large areas. We run computer vision and machine learning models to segment out the rooftops, and then run computer vision upon those rooftops to find all the missing shingles and other forms of relevant damage. We then package those into reports, and that's sold out to contractors, insurance carriers, and in some cases, tax assessors and municipalities. As we continue to gain more business, gain more traction, gain more revenue, it was time to upgrade systems. So know that you don't have to just look at the fanciest stuff that's out there. Begin where you are with your interests, with your experience, and with your means, and there will always be the opportunities to scale up and grow as time continues and progresses. There are a couple of different options that are out there. You can join a pilot network, you can start a drone company, or you can seek employment in a trade you know that can benefit from using UAS. Join a pilot network. I'll touch on that real fast. We do have a network of over 1,000 pilots that we've trained across the country. We have 1,500 that we've personally trained, in-person classes specifically. We have even more from the online methodology. But a lot of those pilots are being tasked for the inspections that we have nationwide. We have property management portfolios that we oversee. We have a lot of different roofing lead generation services on the residential and commercial side that span all across the states. So we do have inherent needs for capture and for acquisition, and we do rely heavily on our pilot network to get those done. Two, you can start a drone company, but I really do recommend you start a drone company if you know what you want to get into, if you have some relevant field of expertise or background, because just like starting any business, you're in some cases going to have to float capital for a little while. and you're going to have to drum up some form of business. So what I do recommend that I think a lot of people tend to pass over is number 3, seeking employment in a trade that you know that can benefit from using UAS. I'll tell you this brief little tangent and story. We started training these tech oil and gas companies like Nutrien, Marathon, et cetera. And we got into the space based on those specific relationships, which was good for inspections on behalf of those teams. And then we branched out from there. And if you don't know the oil and gas space, the payouts are long, the time and development for relationships is long. So we didn't receive our first billables until about 6 months, 8 months after we actually began work, because you had to generate the relationship, get an MSA signed, bid the work, complete the work, then you get paid 60 to 90 days later. It's a long time to wait unless you are actively aware that that's what's going to take place. But if you happen to be a guy that has a background in non-destructive testing, or you work for an NDT company that already has those MSAs, you can immediately implement that service on behalf of those proven and grounded relationships that are already there. So I do recommend starting where you are within your means and within your relevant experience. Go deep in that field of expertise, because what you're going to find as commonalities, data acquisition. You're going to have to learn how to acquire data effectively and efficiently. You're going to have to learn how to store your data, how to process your data, and how to transmit that or convert that into a usable digital product on behalf of your customer. That spans any market that you guys want to get into. So it's by diving really deep and solving each of those problems that you will be capable of translating those across multiple industries at scale and with repeatability. But that's just that was the slides right there. Just wanted to kind of give a little intro and background into what our recommendations are in the drone market from the things that we've seen.
That was great. Thank you. I got a few questions for you, because first I want to ask you about what do you see happening in the drone space over the next, say, 5-10 years? What do you guys both see? Is this a good career path for someone to head down? Even if they don't want to be a pilot, maybe, I'm sure they need sales reps, they need, all the other roles in a business, HR, accounting. Why do you feel this is a good spot for someone to consider who's maybe trying to figure out where they want to go next?
Absolutely. Bill, would you like to go first?
Yeah, George, great intro. Really like what you're doing, man. That's why, we talked. But yeah, Jordy, to answer your question, it kind of reminds me back about 10-15 years ago, kind of when technology and different you had data sources, you had cloud, and you had all these different technologies kind of emerging, right? Kind of before that AI boom, right? Because I have a tech background, I got into tech right out of high school, started different, career paths with tech, which also kind of contributed to where I am today. But for technology at that point, technology was trending, right? We had this big boom, this trend, this AI trend. So I think getting into an emerging technology like drones, certainly right now, we are at the beginning phase of drones taking off. I mean, we have part 107 right now, but they're coming up, FAA is coming up with a part 108 right now, a whole nother framework to kind of expand on, the drone capacity that we have today. You know what I mean? So, they're planning on deliveries with drones. They're planning on, even, taxiing people with drones, right? So they're creating this whole other framework for this whole new job market for drones. So if you can get in now, you're going to be so much ahead of the game, 20, 30, 40 years from now, in terms of knowing the technology. Like you said, there's a bunch of different positions that you could start learning about, operating, collecting the data, sales, and you can kind of choose your path now and get in and make, because they need pilots. So you're going to be able to dictate your price, be able to build on those skills and just build from there. You can have a really great career. If you look a lot of these job fields, everybody can, there's a lot of people that go into sales. There's a lot of people that go into finance. There's a lot of people that choose these fields that, hey, they're great, but they're also, a lot of people are going into them. So the prices for demand may drop just because there's a lot of people that are applying for those positions. So if you can kind of be somebody that sticks out, go into an industry that not only you like, but it's emerging, and that you can have opportunities to join a company or later start a business or even have a
Yeah.
side hustle while you're, you know, working for somebody and learn from them. It could really be a double whammy for you to progress. So I think this is just such an emerging field, a great field to get into. There's just so many options, and it's such a trending
Yeah.
market.
Love it. Love it. Cool. What do you think?
Yeah, but I just to piggyback to Bill's points, I think he articulated that so well. The reality is the regulation framework, we still haven't seen a full integration of drones into the national airspace system. So all these amazing capabilities, the benefits, and actually how much money is saved and how much additional revenue is generated in each of these fields that are now employing drone technology, that is without a full integration of drones into the national airspace system. As Bill had mentioned, Part 108 is in the works right now. Thank you, President Trump, for that order, kind of pushing and pressing things along for a delayed timeline there. We're now starting to see, it won't be too long until we get the initial framework put out to us. It might take a little while for us to, for most of the manufacturers and others to abide by whatever new ruling or methodologies are presented, but it won't be long until we can actually take advantage of BV laws. And if I can give you some concrete example, like for us, for the residential capture, for the commercial capture, we're only limited by our line of sight. We're not limited by flight time. We're not limited by transmission range or any of those factors. We could fly significantly further if not for the fact that the transmission frequencies are most often based on radio frequencies, which will break on line of sight, don't phase through objects. So there are specific technical limitations that we are sometimes running up against. But most of the time, it's really just because we can't see the drone. The frequency is still great, all that good stuff. So for example, on the residential side, we would be able to 3x to 4x the area that we would be able to cover. So in one day, we'd be able to capture what we are currently having to do in about 2 or 3 days, just because we have to stop, redeploy to another site. The MOB and demob time is really killing us for a lot of these really wide area captures. There are a lot of capture methods that are currently borne by planes right now only because planes do have the area coverage that drones cannot currently incur, just because all of these MOBs and DMOBs that you guys are currently having to incur because of the beyond visual line of sight rules and regulations as they are currently set up. So you're going to see drones become a lot more competitive with aerial imagery capture methodologies as Part 108 comes out. And then something that not many people are talking about just yet, the next step in the regulation framework after we've successfully accomplished Part 108 is integrating drones deeper and higher altitudes within the national airspace system. I mean, we know we're all limited to 400 feet altitude right now, but Class G airspace in most parts of the country exists up to 1,200 feet. In some, more congested areas around 700 feet. But we've got some buffer. We've got some wiggle room that's still considered uncontrolled airspace. But we've got a hard limit right here at 400 feet that we're not, moving past yet at this point. Drones will be able to fly higher. They will be able to fly further beyond visual line of sight, exacerbating the benefits of those industries who are currently employing drone technology. So you're going to see, I would say, more of a parabolic increase in the use of drones and the benefit that they provide as the regulation framework loosens and provides safer means for us to take full advantage of the capabilities of the technology.
Jace, can you tell everyone a little bit about what is Part 107? What is Part 108? I mean, Part 107 is one right now. How long does it take someone to get that if they do want to learn how to fly? Do you feel this could be a good side biz for someone to start out? It's sort of like a hobby. It'd be fun to get your license. And what can that lead to?
Absolutely. Bill, would you like to start?
Yeah, I definitely think it's a great side business. Typically, the Part 107, to start and stop, or to start and to finish, you get your license, really shouldn't take more than a month, right, George? I mean, that's a good timeline for what you think as well, about a month at tops.
And there's a
And
couple
that's
of
schoolwork. That's like reading a book work, not out flying, right? To get the
Correct.
license, right?
Yeah, Part 107 is a knowledge test. Like the driver's ed, right? We go through the knowledge test and then the practical test. There are some other countries that do employ a practical test, but we don't have the infrastructure to support that. So it's just a knowledge test out here. And I will say that most of it doesn't relate to what you're actually going to be doing in the field. So the Part 107 is just it's answering questions, understanding general fundamental frameworks about how other aircraft operate within the national airspace system. You have to keep in mind that that was built. It was launched in 2016, built in 2014 and 2015, but nobody was talking about drones in 2014, 2015. It's around 2018, 2019 that things began to circulate and become, a lot more capable in the industries and adoption started to take place. It was around 2014, 2015 that if you actually go look at most of the state laws, that drones were barred from weaponization, drones were barred for surveillance and private, like looking at people, voyeurism, all that kind of stuff, because people feared what they didn't understand or didn't know just yet. So as of 2016, Part 107, the framework, it's just the knowledge test that you have to take to get your Part 107, get your drone license to perform commercial work. As soon as that framework existed and was implemented out to the people, it was only, I believe, 2.5 years from that point that drone licenses surpassed all other aviation licenses from the inception of the FAA. So it's been a very quick rate of adoption, and we only see that continuing to increase. It's not very difficult to get your Part 107 license. There are a bunch of different methodologies. The FAA does have about 270 pages of public documentation that you can go read through, which can be a little bit challenging. There are online courses. We are one of the providers for an online course. So if you guys would like some more information, more than happy to share about that. But 7.5 hours of video instruction that you can go through 30 minutes a day. And within 2 weeks, you have your drone license, you're ready to go. And like I'd mentioned prior, we did offer some courses for the enterprise group. So we'd actually do an 8-hour cram session with the refineries, the law enforcement agencies who needed to be in and out, right? Or they needed to be able to jet out if needed. So we've even trained groups that have converted to their licenses within 3 days. They get their 107 8-hour cram sesh. They take practice tests the next day. On day 3, they get their license. So there's a bunch of different ways you can cut and slice it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Andrew, go ahead, buddy. Andrew's got a question for you.
Hey, good morning, Bill and George. Thank you guys for coming on this morning. I just had a quick question about restrictions in areas. So I'm in like the Pensacola area, and we have like Spencer Field and all the bases around, and we have really restricted areas. Is there anything that you could say towards that part?
Absolutely. Bill,
Yeah.
everything said, I can mention a point afterwards.
Yeah, George, go ahead. No problem.
Okay. So Shreveport, I don't know if you're familiar with Shreveport up in Louisiana, it's pretty similar. You've got 3 airfields that kind of conflict with each other. So just about anywhere in Shreveport, you're going to run into problems. So I think it's about being proactive. If you're getting into a market, you're going to travel somewhere to do an inspection, it's a different thing than you live in an area with current heavily restricted airspace. You can actually apply for long-term waivers in your airspace, and I would recommend making friends with the air traffic controllers. They're really good people. And with your FSD, your FSDO, your local FSDO, I would recommend doing that because those are the people who are going to help you get expedited waivers if needed, and in some cases, long-term waivers. I mean, we have waivers across Shreveport, Alexandria, Lafayette, Baton Rouge, New Orleans, all for long-term operations up to 200 feet because we've basically provided an SOP. We've provided our manual for safe flight, and we've explained internally this is exactly what we do. This is our communication protocols internally and with the tower for missions that's needed. In most cases, they don't even require us to communicate with the tower. They provided us that blanket waiver on yearly terms. So it's my recommendation that if you're in an environment that you know you're going to be dealing with airspace conflictions, file for waivers, file for long-term waivers, and strike up a conversation with your local FSDO.
Yeah, Andrew, and to also add on to that, I use an app called Autopilot. So if I'm going out to do a job somewhere, right, I'm going to go out and do my flight planning. So I go on my Autopilot, I pull up that address, right, and then I can see if there's any flight restrictions, or I might not have any restrictions at all, right? Because there's different classes of airspace. So a lot of times you might think an area might be restricted, but it might not, because you go on the Autopilot app or whatever app you're going to use, right, to do your flight planning and get approvals. You could go on Autopilot and it could be 5 minutes, you have an approval and you go out and fly. So, just have to look at your area, but it might be easier than you think, believe it or not.
Okay. Yeah, I'm really close to all those helicopter landing sites and like Spencer Field and all that. So I was just wondering what your guys' advice with that. Thank you guys.
Yeah, absolutely, Andrew.
Do you guys have any information on like what's going on in the defense industry with drones and stuff? Is that a good path for people? I imagine there are tons of startups every day coming out, right? They're going to love military vets, I would think, right?
That's correct. Bill, would you like to go first?
Yeah, Department of War, I know Pete Hegseth has really kind of pointed to the war in Ukraine, right? Ukraine, Russia, they're going through thousands and thousands and thousands of drones at times, throughout the week or whatever. And we're looking at that war and saying, wow, look at all the things that they're doing with drones. Look at all the drones that they're using, right? We need to start building up our stockpile. And, we have a DJI problem here in the US, right? There's a lot of politicians that don't like DJI because they're Chinese drones. So that's kind of pressuring that we don't use countries
What's
like
DGI? What is that?
Dow
so
Innovations.
yeah.
It's
So what are you saying, Joe?
I said Dow Innovations is just the name for the company in China that owns most of the market share. And so, like, there are a bunch of different studies and articles about exactly what percentage, but there's not, I don't think I've seen a single article that said they have less than 80% market share around the world globally. So
Yeah.
they are definitely the market leader.
Yeah. So that being said, right, when the US wants to kind of kick out DJI, who's producing 80% of the world's drones, we have a national emergency right now for drone pilots, for people that know how to, work with electronics, to work on drones, to design and develop drone technologies. We are in a crisis right now because we know the next wars that we're going to fight, we're going to need drones. We're going to need drone operators. We're going to need drone techs. Right? We're going to need to have the innovative companies, almost like what George is doing, to be able to develop technologies to work with collecting the data and presenting the data and doing all the things that you can do with these, with the drones. So there's a huge demand, certainly from, Department of War standpoint, domestically, commercially, there's a huge demand.
So that's a good path for you guys.
Absolutely. I think that most of the private manufacturers that are based here in the United States, they needed a signal, right? There have only been a few Army short-range reconnaissance contracts and other contracts that were awarded in previous years, but Hegseth's announcement, exactly like Bill said, 1 million drones to be acquired in the next 2 to 3 years. And knowing that the top manufacturer, look, I'm not to misquote any terms, but from my understanding, from the best of my knowledge, Skydio, I think, is producing anywhere from 5 to 10,000 drones a month, which is great. And they're the leading manufacturer right now. And I know they're definitely ramping up their production. They're producing more units, and they have a plan to continue to do that, which is great. But understand that 1 million drones over the course of the next 2 to 3 years, there is an opportunity, and there is actually a drastic need for the increase in production of units. So if you look at most of the drones that are on the DIU Blue list, the Defense Innovation Blue UAS list, those that are approved for use around critical infrastructure, go check out the LinkedIn post for most of those companies. You're going to see that they have, most of them have acquired massive facilities. They're scaling up production actively right now to meet that demand. But they just needed the signal to say the US is making a firm commitment to enter into the drone space and win in the drone space. And now that that commitment has been made, you see that the doors are pretty much blown open on the defense side of things. And that's everything from the actual assembly, the manufacturing of the units themselves, the flight testing of the units themselves, the provisioning in the field, and the testing in the field. And in some cases, like it's not even just for the use of weaponized systems, it's also in case of defense. Like you've got a lot of drones. Like I recommend you guys go check out Quantum Systems. They're a fantastic group that actually has a manufacturing facility over here in the United States now. A lot of drones are being used even to detect mines in fields and a bunch of other things. So it's a wide, very diverse set of opportunities on the defense side, and there's active engagement all across the country. So good time to jump in.
I love
Yeah.
it. Yeah, exactly what Bill said. This is an emerging market that you guys can absolutely dominate. I love it. Let's go to 2 quick questions. Kenneth, you go first.
Yes, Bill and George, how you doing? This is Kenny Edwards. Um, I'm looking to get into the sport and entertainment security industry, and I was wanting to know drone technology. Is this something that can be used inside of like a stadium or building to detect, unruly type participants? And if so, like, what is the for me, for us, what would be like the very next step in order to like pursue getting a certification?
Great question. Do you want to go first, Bill?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, to answer your question, right? The Part 107, like George was talking about, the Part 107 tests, right? It's a lot of regulation. You learn about weather, you learn about different frameworks that are built inside that Part 107 test. It should take you about a month, right? So, you get familiar with it, takes you tops a month. Um, Once you get your certification, okay, and you get a drone, you go out, you can practice, and you build those skills up. But I would say, within 2 months, you're going to be a certified drone pilot. You're going to, have the basic fundamentals that you're going to need to fly that drone, and then just work off of that. But that's why I think it's such a great opportunity for transitioning veterans to get into this field, because it's like, listen, in 2 months, you could be a drone pilot. You can have so many opportunities at your hands.
Even as a side gig, I just think it's so cool to do if you're interested in this field.
Yeah.
Is it something that can be used inside of like a stadium or arena?
Yeah, they have many different types of drones. But yes, you can fly them inside the arenas. They actually have DJI has a very smaller model that has guards around the propellers that you can actually fly in an attic, you know. So yes, you can fly it inside, you can fly them outside, different definitely a lot of models. And really, you could probably spend $2,000 or $3,000 and have an outside drone and an inside drone.
Wow, that's
And
great.
that would lastly, my last question with what you just said. As far as the drones themselves, is that something that we would have to purchase ourselves, or I mean, do we get companies to buy them? Do we get grants? Like how does that work?
I can get some feedback there. I think that's a great set of questions, Kenny, and a great perspective that you have there. So I want you to know, as far as the technological side of things, drones are actively being used for security and for monitoring. Obviously, I'll give you from my personal experience. We had worked with a group that does protection for individuals like the president, et cetera, like any kind of like public figures who are going out to a place, like to survey the scene ahead of time and things like that. So drones are actively being used for things like view shed analysis for those who come from a GIS background, view shed analysis, line of sight analysis for points of interest where that public figure may be walking or may be exposed. We want to know where our vulnerabilities and weak spots are. So mapping, photogrammetry, model generation, all those things, GIS fundamental practices are actively being used and employed to determine where, where active shooters might be or might be from. And even in some cases, we've been employed to go out to stadiums and gather imagery as groups are leaving the stadium for the sake of knowing where people are exiting and where we're getting where people are getting trapped or stuck. I guess if that makes sense, as people are just typically transiting out. So if some emergency were to take place, where are people blocked? Where are people stuck? How are people typically moving and flowing? So yes, for the sake of viewing and monitoring and trying to find bad actors, but also for the sake of preparing ahead of time for what an emergency might look like and knowing how we should change how the facility is structured, mapped, and monitored to assist with the way that it actually does work in real life. So gathering real data to inform what we do. So my recommendation to you would be find a group that does offer private security or contracts on behalf of stadiums, sporting events, and agencies, et cetera. Most of them are not using drone tech as it is today and don't fully employ the benefits of drone technology. So my recommendation is, if you have an interest in that field and if you have some relevant background in that field, I would say it would be great to partner up with an agency that currently has those contracts and bring to light for those guys the benefits and the use of drone technology. And if you have any questions, by all means, I'm happy to share data set examples. So if you have some collateral or something to present over to those guys, I would say in most cases, it's best for you to not take on the risk. It'd be best to go to the company and present the opportunity because you'd be surprised just how many are willing to adopt and take that on.
That's great. All right, two more quick questions, and we're going to get to our next speaker, Quattrell. Thanks for hanging in there, Quattrell. We'll be right with you. Timothy, and then Monique.
All right, thanks for coming to talk to us. I was just going to answer some of the defense sector questions. It is definitely a booming industry, especially for clearance personnel. I know here in Tampa, there's a few companies that are working with the Department of War and other units, and they're looking for cleared people to do said projects for the appropriate read on. So it is definitely a booming sector in the Defense Department as well.
Thanks, Timothy, for sharing this. Monique, go ahead.
Hi, you guys. So I just had a question. So I bought this drone off of Temu. It was maybe only $10. I do need to practice with it more, but I was wondering because it has a camera on it. It's called a mini drone, the S128 mini drone, and it just runs off of AA batteries. It has an app that I can get off the Google Play Store, but I just want to be careful because I did get it off of Temu. Is there like a ban list of like do not since China does have a lot of the market share for drones, is there something that like everyday consumers should be aware of if they're buying drones like off these sites things.
I wouldn't say I would worry about it from the sake of cybersecurity or anything like that. It's not going to be any threat to the United States as it is right now, or no, it's actively being tracked. I'll say that. So DJI is under the most scrutiny of all the groups. I wouldn't worry too much about a Temu drone. The only question that I would probably have is capabilities of the drone and what I think it's a great drone to probably use for the sake of understanding flight maneuvers, getting started. What does it look like to capture images and photos and videos? Some of those basic kinds of things. And like you said, you can graduate from that point with different systems to employ in the field that you want to get into. So don't sweat it too much. It's not a danger. You haven't done anything wrong. You're totally happy, totally cool to use that system.
I got
Just don't
4 of those
fly-
in
Thank you.
the trees
Thank
around my house. So
Just don't
you can
fly-
look at all my little drones I've tried. So one
Yes,
and
and
done.
sorry, if I can speak to, sorry, just one more point. A lot of the questions from DJI came back from around 2017 when it was found that there was a methodology that would allow low resolution snapshots of photos with metadata, so like GPS information. So to be sent back to servers in China, that was most of the problem, in the sense that if you have images, which is why if you go take a look at the DIU Blue List, a lot of these drones have segmented systems for image capture and actually geotagging. So like, for example, the Wingtra, we use that one often for mapping purposes. There's a separate process for geotagging after the fact. So if somebody were to intercept just the imagery without the information that came from the PPK sensor or RTK sensor, there would be no way to understand in time and space, like where was that picture taken? So much less of a threat or a danger, rather than with a low resolution photo with metadata, being able to make reconstructions or place coordinates to where that actual event was, especially as we're flying around critical infrastructure. And with drones, you know, from DJI being 80% of the global market share, there was a valid concern a while ago. Now, from my understanding, most of those threats and those concerns were patched, and they were really tightly validated. So there is supposed to be an investigation taking place, I believe, by December of this year into DJI, where the US and China will be working collaboratively together to inspect their systems, do penetration analyses, and make sure that everything is up to snuff. If they don't pass that test, then they won't be. The FCC is basically putting some bans and some restrictions that will prevent us from acquiring new drones coming from DJI into the future. But don't worry too much about the system that you got. You're good, Monique.
Awesome. All right, guys, this was so awesome. This was really fascinating session, man. Thank you so much. Bill, thanks for organizing. George, thank you for coming, sharing all this. You guys are 2 great guys. It was very cool to hear all this. So
Thank you kindly, George.
appreciate both of you. Thank you. And I'll get you guys in touch with them. If anyone wants to learn more, we'll share their information.